Today I'm going to be talking about breathing. This will be the first of three videos that I want to do talking about breathing, and basically just point out some very basic points around how we can improve our breathing, what blocks our breathing, what releases we can do to help our breathing feel a little bit better, and then how does breathing apply to movements that we can do to enhance our breath work as well. Along the way, I'll talk about also too that how our breath can change if we've got a biochemical imbalance, such as gut dysbiosis, a fungal or bacterial overgrowth, those types of things. Also, how breath has been used for thousands of years to induce or release states of different altered states of consciousness, meaning you can use your breath to actually calm down sensations or feelings that you're experiencing in your body, and you can move it using your breath, which is really cool. So along this three-part series, there's going to be a lot to cover, but for the purposes of these vids, I'm just explaining basics. This is more practical rather than educational, or it might be educational as well, but for me, for what I want to share is just things that you can be aware of, but then you can implement and practice quickly. That's my main intention for these videos. Okay, so yeah, if you got any questions, please let me know, and just write a comment below. Okay, so the first part we're just going to look at is, well, what causes I guess a breathing dysfunction? And now this can be a variety of different things, but what I want to acknowledge a few people that have taught me, and that's Paul Chek from the Chek Institute, taught me amazing things about breathing and why it has such an impact on our health. And then two, Dr. Tony Ansell, a holistic dentist who unfortunately just passed away 2 weeks ago. He also was a big influence on, I guess, how I saw the deeper parts of the stomathanatic system and how that ties into breathing, tongue position, mandible and maxillar arch positioning as well. So yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge those two guys as well, because they've been my teachers in this. So I might just start up here. So what causes or blocks breathing? So first things first, if your nasal canal or nasal passage is blocked for any reason, your body or your face in particular, and then your body will adjust to open or get more airway into one of the nostrils if one side's blocked. So if you've got a deviated septum, for example, or you've got chronic allergies causing an immune response and you get lots of mucus buildup in your nose, your body will turn and change and shift so that you can actually get more oxygen into your body through the nasal cavity. So I generally, if I find that there's a regular occurring and long-term problem in one of the nasal passages, I definitely refer out to an experienced ENT that can assess that a little bit more to see if it actually is a problem. So yeah, if you can't breathe through your nose, that's a big one. Okay, so I would just start there. So that's if it's structural. So if you've got an ENT person that you know of that can assess the structure, great. If it turns out that it's more of a mucus issue or a mucus problem, i.e. your nose is constantly blocked, that could be the referral to someone like a very experienced naturopath, functional medicine doctor, or even like an AK chiropractor that can sort of see if there's a reason for there being such a response to the nervous system, or the immune system, I should say, that's causing the nose blockages. So generally, in my experience, it's sensitivities, allergies, or intolerances to certain foods we're eating. And then in my experience, it's usually something along the lines of processed grains or processed dairy that is causing some type of gut reaction or mucus reaction in the nose. So nasal canal first, guys. There's a lot more to that, but that's just the basics. The next part is the jaw, and basically how it houses the tongue. So the tongue is designed to fit perfectly to your mandible. So if you find that that your tongue or you've got a slight gullet here, just down here, and or you mouth breathe, and you have for a long time, or that from a side-on view, your mandible is slightly back from your maxillary arch there. It's worthwhile getting that assessed to see if your tongue's actually sitting fully in the mandible, or if the tongue's too big for the mandible, that it just slides back and down and it creates a gullet there. Now, what that generally causes is a mouth breathing, because if the tongue slid down and blocks the pharyngeal airway, then it's going to be big problems, and it's hard to correct with manual therapy and other things, but needs a very skilled practitioner to assess whether the tongue is sitting there or not. An experienced holistic dentist that can sort of encourage that journey to open up the mandible and grow it slightly different. Another impeding problem with breathing up here is bruxism. So bruxism essentially is just clenching down hard and creating a lot of tension and strain in all the jaw, upper neck, and upper respiratory muscles up in the upper quarter of the body. Now, again, bruxism can be caused by a structural issue, which we've been talking about. It can be caused by a biochemical issue, i.e. a parasite, a fungus, or gut issues. So that's a big one too. Emotional stress is also a huge one. And in my opinion, generally when you're not expressing or living your truth, or you're not living according to your own core values, you clench down because there's no happiness there that's in your life. So that's a big one too. Could talk a lot more on that, and maybe I will a bit later, but bruxism or clenching. Now, how do you know if you clench? If your masseter muscles here are quite sore, or if you look along the ridge of your gum or mouth lining there, you'll see indentation of clenching, usually in the night or night, that you can see in the morning that there's a clench mark. Again, experienced holistic dentist who can assess that further to see if it's a malocclusion problem, to see if it's stress, to see if it's a biochemical issue, or to see if it's a further structural issue up in the nose or the jaw. And there's ways of improving that. Okay, so then we go from here and we move down into the rib cage or the thoracic area. Now, the thoracic spine has a huge part to do with, I guess, how well we can axial extend. So i.e. if we breathe in and expand up, it has a huge part to whether we can do that or not, or whether we're quite hunched and locked down in this position. Now, I think for me, what I've noticed over the years is everyone's quite tight here. And yes, we can allude that, or a part of that can be our life ergonomics, i.e. in the car, or no, our sedentary whole lifestyle, when we're sitting in the car, sitting down for meals, sitting down for work, and we're just constantly sitting down. So to be in a relaxed state, we've got to slump forward, and our chairs and our ergonomics don't support that. So yes, there's that big part of it as well. So consider just assessing or looking up or looking into different types of desks, saddle chairs, ergonomic stations for your desk, for your computer or monitor, and just so you can get it all upright, nice and high, and the body doesn't fatigue too much in that state. You could use a Swiss ball to sit out, but in my opinion, the body can get quite fatigued from that pretty quickly, so not always optimal. So if you know that you've had a long day at work, i.e. sitting down a lot, and that's happening day in, day out, largely your movement release program should be centered around opening and supinating the body to improve your breathing. That should be the first and foremost part of what you need to do to keep you open, because day in, day out, week in, week out, year upon year, if that keeps occurring, then you're going to build some pretty heavy dysfunctions in there. So the thoracic spine's a big one. This, if what I've just talked about, if this is all happening as well, then that'll also lock down here, and all our upper respiratory muscles, scalenes, even our levator scap and jaw, everything gets really, really tight because we're up here. Okay, and then the thoracic will cave down and decompress as well. Now, it's not only structural. You've also got your organs, your heart, your lungs, your pharyngeal airway, your stomach, your diaphragm, all of these organs too, if not functional or healthy, can actually pull the thoracic down or twist the thoracic out of its alignment too. So remember, every organ is stimulated by the nerves that run through the spine. So, and the musculature around then that organ and the spine is also directly influenced by those nerves, by blood, by nutrition, by water, everything around it. So the thoracic spine can be pulled down by those guys as well, and quite often locked. So a big part of what I look at too is to see if the diaphragm's functioning, to see if it needs some release work, because that can definitely pull the thoracic down and lock it quite a lot as well. Another part about the thoracic spine too is that you can get quite locked, and it's almost called like chest gripping, if there's not enough tonic or stabilizer strength within the whole structure to keep you quite bendy and supple. And if you're doing just like a lot of heavy weights or activity without stabilizing your system or your spine, then the chest can grip and sort of lock into that position. And that sometimes occurs too if the pelvic floor and inner unit muscles of the core musculature aren't active as well. So that's a big one too. So then we might go down and we sort of look at, like I said, if this up here and our thoracic are impeded, then the diaphragm usually gets crushed and down, or not crushed, but doesn't have the capacity to move down into our belly, so we can't belly breathe. Then we've got to look at, well, how can I get my body into a nice position, unloaded generally, so lying on our back, so that I can start to practice full deep breaths with my diaphragm, and that my neck and head and chest can open up. Okay, so what I'm just trying to allude to, guys, is there can be many things that impact our breathing. It can be centered around this upper quarter, it can be centered around the chest, the rib cage, or it can be centered around further down, i.e. in our diaphragm, and our pelvis can also influence our breathing. So they're just a few little key points. Now, what I want to show you in the next video is just some techniques and tools that we can use to sort of enhance our breathing, practice our breathing, and influence basically what's called our brainstem control of breathing function, how our brain actually breathes into our body, so that we can practice from that level. Okay, so say you had no jaw or mouth issues, say you had no organ dysfunction, it was just mainly an ergonomic issue, so you just needed to open up and breathe, then I want to show us some ways of how we can do that, some muscles to release, and then how to use, say, like a foam roller, and the type of breathing practice that I want to sort of teach and take you guys through. So please let me know if you've got any questions just about those brief little parts or little tips. And yeah, let me know what you think. I'll put the next video out next week, and as I said, it'll be a little bit more practical as to how to improve our breathing. So okay guys, have a great week, many blessings, ciao.